These 6 fat loss mistakes destroyed my results. But once I fixed them, I actually finally got lean. The first mistake is snacking. So every time I would have dinner, I would have literally eaten a whole day's worth of clean meals. I would have stuck to my calorie deficit for that entire day. And after having my last meal at dinner time, I would automatically get cravings for chocolates, for sweets, for chips, for biscuits, for whatever I could find in my kitchen pantry. And so because I had those cravings, I would then give in to the cravings and I would eat all the sweets. And because I was eating that way, it meant that I would have turned my calorie deficit into a calorie surplus now. And I was eating a bunch of shit ingredients as well that were contained in the sweets, the chocolates, and all that garbage food. So I stayed fat until I went and did this challenge for 75 days where I cut out all of the crappy foods for 75 days straight. I kept a strict clean diet and I gave up the snacking. And in those 75 days, it took me about 3 weeks to actually realize that, oh wow, I don't even have these cravings for snacks, for sweets after dinner anymore. And what I realized is that you only have the cravings because you feed the cravings and you give into them time and time again. It's like telling the smoker that's trying to quit cigarettes that once a week, a pack is completely fine. You're keeping the smoker on the cigarettes, and because the guy keeps smoking, he's going to crave it again in the future. So it doesn't make sense if you're trying to quit snacking to allow yourself to snack daily. I was talking to this guy the other day as well, and he was telling me about his cravings for the fish and chips, the burgers, the fried chicken wings that he's going to have the next day. And he told me his meal plan from Monday to Saturday is completely strict. It's clean. And then when he gets to Sunday, he has a cheat day and he eats whatever he wants. And because it was Saturday, he was craving that cheat day on Sunday. And the only reason he was craving it is because he feeds himself that way every Sunday. If he just ate clean, naturally, the entire time, he would no longer have those cravings every Sunday. And it's because you're feeding these cravings, you're giving into them every time, that makes you crave them more in the future. So if you just give yourself, say, 3 weeks, just cut out snacking or cheat days or whatever it is for you that's causing you these issues. And I guarantee you, in a month's time, you won't even have the cravings anymore. And by the way, if you wanted more tips as to how to avoid binge eating, you can check out my program. That's the link in the description below. It's free for a limited time, so go check it out and I want to see you in there. The second mistake is not tracking your protein. So protein is actually the most filling macronutrient out of protein, carbs, and fats. If you have 200 calories and those 200 calories come from protein, you would be more full if those same amount of calories came from carbs or fats. Protein also takes the most amount of calories to digest after eating it as well. So when you eat more protein, you're going to be more satiated and you're also going to be burning more calories because it takes more to digest. And sure, that might only be a little bit extra that you're burning because you're eating protein. You also need protein to build muscle. And when you can add more muscle onto your frame, what that means is you're actually burning more calories at rest. So muscle is metabolically active tissue. It requires a lot of energy to actually just maintain. So if you can add more muscle to your frame by eating more protein, then you're actually going to be burning more calories just at rest, which is going to, of course, make your job at getting lean and staying lean so much easier. So if you're eating low protein, you're going to be hungrier and you're also going to be burning fewer calories. So make sure you are eating a sufficient amount of protein. You need to be eating at least 1 gram per pound of body weight. Or if you can't be bothered tracking the numbers to the gram, then instead just build every single one of your meals around protein. And every time you sit down to eat the protein first. It sounds funny, like people will make fun of me every time I eat chicken and rice. I will literally eat all the chicken just by itself first, and then the rice separately. Same with if I'm eating steak and potatoes, for example. I'll have the steak completely on its own first, and only then will I eat the potatoes. And the reason I do this, and I'll give you an example which illustrates the point so well. So the other night, I was at this restaurant and he was doing unlimited fries if you bought a steak. So what I did was I got 2 steaks and I ate the 2 steaks first. And because I ate the 2 steaks first, by the time I got to eating the chips, I didn't even want to eat the chips because I was so full from the 2 steaks that I'd already eaten. And can you imagine if instead I thought, okay, let's eat the steak and the fries at the same time, or even worse, eat the fries first. I could have eaten all of the fries, and because they were doing unlimited fries, I would have ordered more fries and more fries and more fries. And the issue with that is you don't get satiated of eating carbs. You don't get satiated of eating fries. So you just need to have your protein first so that you can avoid any situation like that where you're way more prone to overeating calories. The third mistake is being dumb when you eat out. So a lot of people get scared at eating out when they're trying to lose fat. I certainly was one of them as well. I would freak out. I wouldn't know how many calories were in the meals on the menu. I wouldn't know what to choose. But what I've realized is that eating out is not an inherently bad thing when it comes to you dieting or losing fat. You just need to be smart every time you eat out and choose the right meals that are actually conducive to your goals. What I see is a lot of people being really dumb when they go and eat out. And what I see is people that are trying to lose fat will go out and eat pizza, will eat pasta, will eat noodles, will eat burgers. And I think a lot of people will do that because they have this mentality of, yeah, well, I'm out, it's Saturday night, I'm with my friends, let me just enjoy myself. I've just been through a whole week of eating clean, let's reward myself, I deserve it. And sure, I get it. You want to just lay back at least one meal of the entire week. The only issue with that is you are, again, as I said before, you're feeding these cravings so that if you're accustomed to having a cheat meal every Saturday night, you're going to continue craving that every Saturday night, and even every Friday night, every Thursday night, every Sunday night. Because when you expose your body to pizza, to pasta, to burgers, to all of the crap, you're way more likely to want to crave it and eat it again in the future because it was just so goddamn good the first time. And so I think, sure, you're giving yourself this temporary reward for the hard work you've done over the course of the past week. But what I think you're actually doing is making your life low-key a lot harder because you're making yourself crave these foods way more. Whereas if you just abstain from them, you wouldn't have these cravings as much in the future, and your life with fat loss would be way easier. So to be smart when you eat out, there are healthy, fat loss conducive alternatives that you can choose. And these are things like just having chicken and rice. Except it actually tastes way better than the chicken and rice you probably cook at home because it's at a restaurant. And again, as I just said, choose a meal that's structured around a protein. So things like noodles, pasta, pizza, these things aren't structured around meat or a protein. So most of the time I do away with them. But if you can find a meal like a steak or like a chicken or a beef or a pork or something that has protein as its main element in the dish, then I think that's completely fine. And eating out doesn't have to be this bad thing. The fourth mistake is not meal prepping. So the common scenario that always happens, and it's what always happened to me, was that I would reach lunchtime, I would reach dinner time, and I would now be so hungry. I'd be looking in the pantry, looking in the fridge, looking for something to eat. And because there was nothing to eat, what I would do was eat something really shitty. Like, honestly, even have a packet of chips for lunch. Or I would go on Uber Eats, order like Subway, McDonald's, KFC, and that would be my lunch. And the only reason I ordered the Subway, the KFC, the McDonald's in the first place was because I had nothing already to eat at home. And this is the exact problem that meal prep solves. Because every time now when you're hungry, when it's lunchtime, when you go ravaging in the kitchen, in the pantry, in the fridge for food, you now have 5 meals in Tupperware containers that are ready to go for each lunchtime of the week. So every time it gets to lunchtime, you don't have to think about what it is you have to do. You don't have to look around, scavenge some ingredients together and make something of nothing. You don't have to go on Uber Eats and order a Subway because you've already got something prepared. And that meal that's already prepared is going to be healthy. It's going to be low calorie. It's going to be clean, natural, unprocessed foods, conducive to you actually getting lean. And having meal prep ready to go there just reduces the friction between you and eating that way. So that is why meal prep is so important in terms of fat loss. And all it takes is just an hour every Sunday afternoon where you just cook in bulk for the rest of the week and you're set. The fifth mistake is living a sedentary lifestyle. So I see this all the time, especially in the 9 to 5 office workers. They will literally just sit at their desk and not go outside for the entire workday. And the workday is not necessarily even just a 9 to 5. It can be something like a 8 to 7 p.m. at night. And they're in the office this entire time, which is just so grim in the first place. But what's even worse is when you're just not even moving, you have such a high propensity to get fat because you're literally just in a chair all day, not even moving. So your calorie burn is just absolutely tanked. And what does that mean? It's so much easier to get fat. And what I don't think people realize is that when you're working, at least in Western countries, from 8 to like 7 p.m., no one, I think, really has an issue if you're going to step outside for an hour at lunchtime and go for a walk. Like, you can be efficient, eat your lunch while you work, and then take 30, 45 minutes, 60 minutes to just go outside and walk. At least in Australia, your employer is obliged to give you a lunch break. So take the lunch break, go on a walk, burn some more calories. You can burn like 300 calories in a 1 hour walk. And not to mention all of the other benefits you get from just going outside and getting sunlight. And if you're even feeling a bit more risky, then you can go for a run as well during lunchtime and burn even more calories. But it's so much more efficient because you don't have to sacrifice any time either side of starting work or ending work. So the cardio is almost built into your lifestyle rather than you having to find an extra pocket of time to fit it in. The sixth mistake is having caffeine way too late in the day. I see this all the time. People have their coffee break at like 3 p.m., 4 p.m. to beat that afternoon slump. But what you don't realize is that caffeine's half-life is 6 to 8 hours. So when you have that coffee at 4 p.m. that contains 100 milligrams of caffeine, at 10 p.m. when you're trying to go to bed, you still have 50 milligrams of caffeine in your system that is keeping you awake. And if it's not keeping you awake, then it's ruining the quality of your sleep. And when you have poor sleep, it lowers your metabolism and it increases the hunger hormone called ghrelin. So the next morning when you wake up, you are burning less calories and you're also way hungrier and have a way higher tendency to overeat calories, but just eat shitty foods in general. So you need to make sure that your sleep is being taken care of, to make sure that you don't have these random hunger spikes throughout the day and that your metabolism is actually working and efficient. And you can do that by just having a curfew for your caffeine intake. For me, I don't have any caffeine past 12 p.m. to make sure that my sleep is actually on point and so I don't get any of these hunger spikes or reduced metabolism the next day. And there is probably a million other things that I haven't mentioned in this video that you can find in my program in the Skinny Fat Solution, which is linked in the description below. And it's free for a limited time now, so please go and check it out. I want to see as many of you guys in there as possible. But I essentially just give you my entire 7 years worth of knowledge that I've gained regarding nutrition, diet, training, and mindset, and way more. And again, you can find it, I think it should be linked in the description below. So if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. We're getting to 20k subs soon. And if you want to keep on learning, check out this video here. Other than that, I'll see you in the next one.